If you've ever built a raised bed, you know how it goes. You start with a simple plan, just a few boards or a metal frame, and before long you're hundreds of dollars deep in materials that start rotting or rusting before your second season. It's frustrating, especially when your main goal is to grow food, not build furniture. But what if I told you that you could build a better, longer-lasting garden bed for under $3, using nothing but organic waste and a few minutes of work? This is what I call the lazy gardener's $3 bed, a simple, soil-based method that outlasts any wooden or metal structure because it's built by nature itself, not by carpentry. The problem with traditional raised beds is that they fight nature instead of working with it. Let's be honest. Most raised beds look nice, but they're a constant battle against the environment. Wood breaks down under moisture and fungal pressure, even when treated. Metal heats up too fast and bakes the soil, creating wild moisture swings. Concrete or brick works, but it's expensive and hard to move. And every one of these options requires filling the frame with tons of purchased soil, which compacts, drains poorly, and often dies after a few seasons without serious maintenance. What serious gardeners have learned over time is that longevity in gardening doesn't come from materials. It comes from biology. You can't stop nature from decomposing. So the trick is to make decomposition work for you instead of against you. That's exactly what this $3 method does. The idea is to build your bed from organic layers that become permanent soil structure. This bed doesn't use boards or steel panels. Instead, you shape and define the growing space using organic materials that break down over time into rich, stable humus. Think of it as a living bed frame, one that strengthens itself instead of wearing out. Here's how it works. Start by marking out the area where you want your bed. It can be any size, but a good starting dimension is about 4 feet wide by 10 feet long. A manageable bed for most gardeners. Once marked, don't dig it out. Just mow or flatten the grass, then begin layering organic matter right on top of the ground. The base layer should be made of coarse, bulky materials that resist quick decomposition: sticks, small branches, corn stalks, or old wood chips. These act as the permanent bones of the bed, giving it height and aeration. You can often get these materials free from a local landscaper or from your own yard trimmings. On top of that, add a layer of nitrogen-rich material, green grass clippings, manure, or fresh garden waste. This layer feeds the microbes that will begin breaking down the woody base. Next, spread a thick layer of cardboard or old paper to suppress weeds and trap moisture. Then add a mix of topsoil and compost. About a 2-to-1 ratio of compost to soil works perfectly for the initial top layer. Finally, top it with straw, mulch, or leaves to protect it from drying out. That's it. You've just built a permanent raised bed without nails, without lumber, and honestly, without breaking your back. The $3 part comes from, well, using what's already around you. Most gardeners, throw away what could be their best building materials. That's why this method is so cheap. You can make an entire bed using nothing but discarded materials, leaves, cardboard boxes, and grass clippings. Even the small cost comes only from a few shovelfuls of compost or manure to kick-start the biology, usually no more than $3 worth if you buy in bulk or from a local farmer. What makes this bed special is that its structure is, in fact, self-renewing. As the lower layers decompose, they're replaced naturally by root networks, fungal threads, and earthworm tunnels. The bed shape holds itself together because the soil organisms knit it into one cohesive body. After one season, what started as a pile of waste becomes a high-performance soil ecosystem. You can even edge the bed naturally using stones logs or compacted soil berms if you want a more defined look, but that's optional. The real strength of this design is that it doesn't rely on rigid walls. It breathes, absorbs moisture, and grows stronger every year. This bed improves with age instead of breaking down. Unlike wood or metal beds that degrade from the outside in, the $3 bed gets better every season. The first year, the decomposition process generates mild heat and moisture, which encourages strong root growth and early planting. By the second year, the internal wood fibers and fungal networks stabilize the soil, preventing erosion and compaction. This natural self-composting system mimics the forest floor. Nutrients cycle constantly, moisture is regulated through organic matter, and beneficial microbes dominate. Because there are no sharp walls, earthworms move freely in and out, aerating the soil and keeping it alive. Many gardeners report that after 3 years, their $3 beds outperform their most expensive cedar frame boxes, not just in structure, but in yield and soil quality. If you ever need to move or expand, it's as simple as reshaping the mound and adding more organic layers. No demolition, no hauling, no rot. Nature maintains the frame for you. Maintenance is minimal, but feeding the biology is key. This bed doesn't require replacement, but it does need feeding. Every season, just top it off with a few inches of organic matter, compost, shredded leaves, or aged manure. Water deeply once a week to keep microbial activity consistent, especially during dry spells. And, avoid over-tilling. Instead, let the worms and fungi do the mixing. If you're in a hot climate, increase the mulch layer to conserve moisture. In cooler zones, use darker mulch like composted leaves to capture warmth. The key is to maintain a living surface layer where biology can thrive. For crop rotation, you'll want to use deep-rooted plants like tomatoes or beans in the first year, and then, switch to shallow-rooted greens or herbs the next. This really helps keep the nutrient layers balanced and prevents soil fatigue. So the science behind why this bed lasts so long is actually quite fascinating. What makes this method outperform traditional materials is the formation of stable humic complexes, which are basically the end product of microbial decomposition. These compounds bind minerals, resist erosion, and, they hold moisture like a sponge. Over time, they create a self-sustaining soil matrix that doesn't wash away or compact easily. In a wooden bed, the structure fails when the wood decays, but in this bed, decay is actually the point. It's how the structure forms in the first place. Fungal hyphae and microbial glues bind particles together at the microscopic level, producing a flexible but stable living architecture. That's exactly why you can keep these beds in use for a decade or more without ever needing to rebuild. Serious gardeners know nature builds the best beds. Once you really understand the biology, it becomes clear that we've been over-engineering garden beds for far too long. The lazy gardener's $3 bed proves that simplicity rather than complexity is what creates longevity. By letting decomposition, moisture balance, and microbial life handle the work, you end up with a bed that feeds itself, holds its shape, and just keeps getting better over time. So before you spend another weekend cutting boards or fighting with rusted bolts, why not try building one of these natural raised beds? For less than the cost of a cup of coffee, you'll have a living structure that produces richer soil, healthier plants, and honestly, far fewer headaches every season. If this guide helped you rethink how to build smarter, not harder, do consider subscribing to the Soil Doctor channel and sharing this video with other serious growers. Let's keep spreading real, affordable methods that let nature do the heavy lifting. Because, great soil really shouldn't come with a big price tag.